Hey everyone, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, give people a couple of minutes to jump on and join me live. And today we're going to talk about how to keep littles busy. So I've seen this on the app some, I've seen it on Facebook, people asking, what do you do when you have little kids? So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you have any questions at all, feel free to drop it in the chat, and if you are watching this after the event, you can post it in the comments, and I'm happy to come back. Jonna has joined us. Hi, Jonna, so good to have you. So hopefully we'll have a couple more people join. I know that it's a Friday, it's an afternoon if you're on the East Coast, and you might be getting ready to go out. Maybe it's date night. Fearless Mama, thank you for joining in. So if you have specific questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to give you my tips, things that I did, and I also polled a couple of friends, so I'm also going to share their tips. And really their tips were the same as mine, like it just confirmed that we all kind of did the same thing. So, all right, a couple of people have joined us, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about how to keep littles busy when you're trying to homeschool. So that's the topic for today. So a little bit about my story to let you know where I'm coming from. I have 3 kids, and when I first started homeschooling, I had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a baby. And so that's how we started. I started with little kids. So when they're that small, the good news is that school doesn't take all day, or you have all day to get through school. So we started with what used to be the kindergarten program. Sonlight has added a level since we first started. And it took us about 4 to 5 hours because we took breaks. And that's the key. Like, don't think that you have to recreate school at home, that it has to look like what a classroom looks like. So don't picture rows of desks, children sitting at a desk, teacher at the front, and the school bell going off every hour or every 50 minutes or whatever. It's not going to look like that. It shouldn't look like that. You have the freedom to not make it look like that. So what our day looked like was a mix of couch subjects and table subjects. So we did things like handwriting, creative writing, math, those kinds of things were at the table. And then we would move to the couch, which had where we would do history, Bible, read alouds we actually saved for bedtime, science, but I blocked scheduled history and science, so I didn't do both of those in the same day. I did history one day and science one day, and that just helps with opening and closing of books. So that's another little tip too, is just it streamlines your day if you can do that with some of the subjects. So we alternated between couch and table. So what I did was I tried to be strategic about our table time, depending on the age of the littles that I had. So like I said, we started with 5, 3, and a baby. She was 3 months old. She was born in May. We started in August, so 2.5 months old. And so when she would go down for her nap, that's when we did our table time. And then I would try to save the couch time for when she was up. So either I would nurse her with a book in my hand, and the boys would play on the floor, or if she was a little bit older, she would get tummy time while I laid on the floor next to her. So that's how we started when she was very, very small. As she got older, she still took a nap, but then her awake time was a little bit longer. But even when she was in a bouncy seat, one of the things I did was I scheduled, or I had the boys take turns entertaining the baby while I worked with the other child. So that's a trick that you guys can use. And this is a really hard question to answer, not knowing what your situation is. Like, do you have only 2 kids, but you have an older child and a little one who wants to get into everything? Do you have a lot of kids with a lot of little ones that you're trying to entertain? So these are just ideas, and you can think about, is that going to work in my family or not? So I divided the ideas by ages. So that's how I'm going to kind of cover everything. So if you have a 0 to 1 year old, okay, they're right in that baby age. I've already mentioned the tummy time. So, you know, when the baby's awake, you have the baby with you, and she's just part of the day. And if they're crawling, you just keep an eye on them, on her, on him, whatever. If they are starting to pull up, you're right there while you're reading aloud. If they're at the age where they can sit in a high chair, 6 months on up, then we would do our table time and put the baby in the high chair. And that would be a great time for the baby to have a snack, Cheerios or bananas or whatever, while I was right there at the table with the other 2 boys, and we were working together. That way she was always part of the activity, didn't feel left out, and I would just take breaks when I needed to. Oh, we have to change a diaper. I need to nurse the baby. Let's move to the couch. And it was a flow. You know, it wasn't a set schedule at 8 o'clock and at 9 o'clock and at 10 o'clock. If we needed to take a break and change things up, we did. So that was 0 to 1. I mentioned the bouncy seat. So I would have the boys take turns singing to her, telling her stories, just being in her face while she was in a bouncy seat, bouncing her a little bit. Timothy loved to sing her songs. So he would sing the Itsy Bitsy Spider, things like that. And she would just stare at him, you know. So it's okay to use your children as not babysitters, but you're fostering sibling friendships. That's part of homeschooling. It's not just the schooling, is that you get to keep them at home so that they can get to know their siblings, and part of that is that they're always there. And so they have to learn to be with one another. So then the 1 to 2 age, now they're probably walking a little bit. They may be getting into some trouble. You need to really kind of keep an eye on them. So if you can confine them to a space, depending on your home and what it looks like, if you have a bonus room, a basement, a living room that you can block off, close off, baby gates, shut doors, or whatever, then you can kind of confine school to that space. And even the older kids can, you know, do their table work at a coffee table or a lap table or a clipboard, that kind of thing, so that the baby is there with you. And I would keep special toys. This is for 1 to 2, but also 2 to 3. I kept special toys that were not everyday toys. They were educational, and those went into a special place, whether it was a chest of drawers, a high bookshelf, a bin that went out of the way, and you know they couldn't get to them, and they wouldn't ask for it because they couldn't see it. But there were special toys that went into that space, and I would pull those out only during school time. That kept those toys fresh. The kids, you know, the baby wanted to play with them because she didn't get to them all the time. And they were things like those shape sorting games. So they're educational. They're learning, you know, about shapes and how they fit. Those ring stacking things, you know, so they had to stack them. Really, at first it was just stacking them at all, being able to put them in the hole on the pillar. But then after that it became, can you stack them in this order? Oh, can you put the blue one first as they got older? So it became an educational thing. Another thing that my kids loved were pots and pans and wooden spoons. And so I would let my own, not toys, real pots and pans. So I would pull those out. I have lots of wooden spoons. I'm Italian. I cook with wooden spoons. And so I would let them cook. And I found that if I gave them actual things to cook, pretend cook, of course, they love that. So whether it was a bag of pasta, like the little ditalini pasta or shells or something like that, they could stir that, it would make a noise. If they ate it, it wasn't toxic. You know, this is past the choking stage. 15 bean soup. We did that closer to 2 to 3, maybe even 3 going into 4. You can buy a bag of 15 bean soup for just a couple bucks. Throw away the little flavor packet and let them stir that. That is so fun. They can pour it. You can give them measuring, scooping, plastic scoops, like a measuring cup, and they could pour from one to another. They could pour from one pot to another. You could give them big mixing bowls, and they would be entertained with that for a while so that we could continue doing school. As they got older, the 15 bean soup became a sorting toy. So I would set out little plastic bowls, and I would put one of each kind of bean in the bowls and say, okay, find all the lima beans and put them here. Find all the black beans and put them here. Find all the navy beans, the black-eyed peas, and that would be a sorting activity. That is school. They are learning how to sort. And then we also would do a lot of Raffi songs. I don't know if he's still popular or not, but we did a lot of singing Raffi songs. I also would schedule, I think I've already mentioned that, but to schedule time for the older siblings to work with the younger siblings. So whether they play together with the pots and pans, or maybe an older child is learning how to read, he would read to the baby, and he would read just from his own reader. So if it was like Frog and Toad, like a grade 2 reader, even the K readers, it would give the older child practice. The younger, the little one was getting attention, and it was great. It was just great sibling bonding. So use your older kids to read to the younger ones. And then once they are about 3 years old, you can invest in the P3-4. It's the Sonlight preschool level. It is fully scheduled. It gives you ideas and things like that. But what I did, what I found is that if I gave the youngest child my attention first, then that child would be happy, would not feel like she was vying for my attention, and would be content to then play on her own later with her special toys. Those special toys were only good for a short amount of time, 10, 15 minutes. So you have to keep rotating them. You can't expect them to play with one toy for an hour while you do all of math with all 3 of your kids. So as soon as you see that she's starting to lose interest, you're like, okay, let's clean up. You pick those toys up, you put them away, you find a new toy that she can play with. We also had, I made a list of things. Wooden puzzles, the kind that have the little knob and the one shape fits in the one hole. My kids love those. I looked for those used. These days we have Facebook Marketplace. In the old days I had to go to garage sales or used curriculum stores or fairs, or go to those secondhand kid shops. So I would look for those as inexpensively as possible. And again, those only came out during school time. Geo shapes, those geometric shapes that are different colors. Timothy used to love to play with those. He would lay on the floor while I was reading aloud and make these elaborate shapes. Another thing he loved to play with was dominoes. We had a whole big domino set, and he would make these trains out of the dominoes and blocks. So he would make, the dominoes would go up, and then they would go down, and then when he would have them all set up, we would watch them, the whole train just, and then he'd go back to making a new train. So dominoes is a very simple game, but you can use it for lots of different things. You can use it as a matching, you can literally find the one and match it to the one, the two to the two, and see how long of a snake you can make with your dominoes. Stringing beads, I had found these wooden beads. If you can't find like a put together set, you literally can find just plain wooden beads at the craft store and paint them yourself, different colors, and use shoelaces as the stringing string, because it's got the end is already glued down, so it's got a point. You don't have to have a needle, and the kids can string and make beautiful arrangements. As they get older, you can actually have them do a pattern. So blue, green, blue, green, blue, green, or blue, blue, green, blue, blue, green, and see if they can follow the pattern. Again, that is math, that's school. Another sorting activity besides the 15 bean soup is a change jar. So we have a jar. My husband comes home and he empties out the change into the jar, and every 9 months or so, I'll take it down to the bank and deposit all the change. But you could just collect it, and that can also be a sorting activity. You can sort all the quarters, even if they don't know what they are. They can tell by size, they can tell by color. You know, the pennies are brown and all the other ones are different size, so they can sort those. And then they're sorted and you can just go deposit them. So you can sort change. Buttons, I collect buttons. So anytime we have clothes that we're going to discard, I will cut all the buttons off and put them in I have a box, and we just collect them. You can buy at the craft store a bag of mixed buttons, all kinds of colors, all kinds of shapes and sizes. It's not expensive. So if you're crafty at all, they're good to have on hand for all kinds of things. But that's another sorting activity, and kids love to go through the buttons. There's a book in Grandma's attic, and she talks about buttons and she tells the story behind buttons. So that's something that you could start doing, is just to collect buttons. So there's all kinds of things like that you can utilize, just stuff around the house, or inexpensive things that you can buy that would be not only entertaining but also educational, because they learn about colors, they learn about shapes, and you can teach them how to sort. And then there are some activities that we only save for the high chair. I don't love Play-Doh because I don't want it in my couch cushions. So we only played with Play-Doh in the high chair. And it got to where I didn't want to buy it because it's not cheap, and I would make it. There's all kinds of salt dough or flour dough, Play-Doh recipes, and you don't even need to dye it if you don't want to, or you could dye it with some natural things, onion skins, make colors and things like that. That might be a fun activity for you to do with your kids. But you could only play with Play-Doh in the high chair. So that's another thing you can do when it's table time and your child wants, is kind of getting whiny. You're like, oh, let's play with Play-Doh, but you have to be in your chair. And so there are certain toys that only come out in the chair if it's going to be messy. Another thing is to do a salt tray. Couldn't think of it. You take a cookie sheet and you pour salt in it. You can buy the inexpensive salt. It doesn't have to be Himalayan pink salt or anything fancy, just regular table salt, and they can draw designs in it. But again, only in the high chair, because unless you have a child who's just gonna woo, and throw it. But I didn't have one of those, so it worked for me. But she loved to draw pictures with her finger in the salt. It felt cool. It was very tactile. I've heard of shaving cream. I never did that because then I had to clean up the shaving cream. I've also heard of whipped cream, because they can eat that and it's okay. So if you're okay with all the sugar that they're gonna get, you might try that just on their tray, and they can play in that, and that's fun. Finger paints, that's another thing that we only did in the high chair, or as they got a little bit older, at the booster seat at the kitchen table that is wood and I could wipe down. So nothing, that I'm going to be upset if it got damaged or anything like that. Our kitchen table got so much activity. So those are all the ideas that I had for you, but I know that there are more out there. So if there are ideas of things that you have done and you want to share them, once this video posts, please feel free to add to what I have said. I did poll my friend who has 9 kids, and she said a lot of the same things. She took advantage of nap time, but she had 9 kids. So she had lots of older kids and she could rotate through them so that not any one child was stuck with the baby the whole time. Remember that this is life skills. You are not only fostering sibling relationships, but you're also teaching life skills, like they can learn how to change a diaper. But entertaining a baby is an amazing life skill. It's also going to teach patience for the baby, for the child, for the mom. Homeschooling is a huge school in patience. And so I just encourage you not to isolate your younger kids, your preschoolers or even younger. Don't feel like they are a burden, that that they're interrupting. It's okay. This is part of what homeschooling is. It's being interruptible and tending to things. We had someone in my small group. Everyone that is a newbie is in a small group, and someone in my small group was saying that their kids are always hungry, and that is actually a true thing. They're little bodies, they're growing a lot, so especially the really young ones, snack time is a great time to put them in a high chair, give them their snack. They're happy, they're fed, you give them their sippy cup, and they're right there with you, and so they're not feeling left out. But for those who are a little bit older, like school-age kids, and if they're always hungry and wanting a snack, I would say either regularly schedule breaks so that everybody knows that at 9:30 we're going to work until 9:30, then we're going to take a break and we're going to have snack. Or if you have kids that aren't hungry all at the same time, the other idea was to pre-pack snack cups, just so that you're not doing bags and throwing that away. That's wasteful. But if you buy those little Rubbermaid snack cups, you can preload them with whatever snacks your kids like. If you want to be healthy, you could do nuts and cheese. If you're like, whatever, just be happy, goldfish, I don't know, fruit snacks. And then put them in a place that they are allowed to access, so that when their tummies are rumbling, they don't have to ask you. You don't have to stop and get them a snack. They have their snack place that they can go. And so that could just be either one of the things that you do in the morning, or if you have an older child, you can assign that. You get to do the snack cups, and then they get to pick what the snacks are for the day. And then you could rotate that through your kids. So those were the ideas that I had for you, how to keep littles entertained so that they don't disrupt too much. They're not painting on the walls while you're trying to do school. They're actually part of the school, and they're participating. They're learning right along with you. We read aloud with everyone in the room, and it was amazing what the little ones would pick up on. I was always stunned when I would ask a question and my 2-year-old could answer it. So don't be afraid to engage them as well. So I don't see any questions on the live. If you have questions afterwards, drop them in the comments, and don't forget to share your ideas. Thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend. Bye.